Today's topic, how to be a genius. How to be a genius. How to raise a genius. How to make your child a genius. Genius. What does genius mean? When we think of genius, we think of Einstein. We think of Mozart. Right? A genius is someone who has an incredible intelligence or talent for something. We can even think of business genius, such as Richard Branson, the guy who created the Virgin Company, who was a millionaire when he was 19 years old. Genius. Now, we have this idea that genius is something that is genetic, like you're born with it. But in today's show, we're going to discuss a different view, that genius can be learned, created. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com for a free text transcript of this show. effortlessenglishclub.com. Get the free transcript and join my Power English course. Genius. Today's interview is with one of my favorite teachers. One of my favorite teachers, one of my favorite education thinkers, Mr. John Taylor Gatto. Awesome guy. Just an amazing man. He wrote the book Dumbing Us Down and others. Some information about John Taylor Gatto. He was given an award for the best teacher in the state. I think it was New Jersey or New York. I can't remember. Maybe Jersey. So the number one teacher in his whole state, he got an award. So he used to teach in the public school system. But he saw the evil that I talk about all the time. He saw the incompetence, right? He saw that the school systems everywhere were designed to make us dumber, not smarter, weaker, not stronger, more dependent, not independent. And so he left. He left the school system and he began to speak about all of the terrible problems and evils of the schools. This is a man who cares deeply about children, about people. So I love him. Get one of his books. Read the book Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. It's a great book, an amazing book about schools and what's wrong with schools. And he also gives solutions. But anyway, today's topic, there is an interview with John Taylor Gatto, and he's talking about the easiest way to turn your kid into a genius, to make your child a genius. So how does genius happen? Let's listen.
The easiest way to turn your kids into geniuses, I mean, by the time they're 7, is just to front load huge amounts of experience, including dangerous experience.
Aha, very interesting. So he said, how do you do it? How do you make your kid, your child, into a genius? And he says, the easiest way is to front load a huge amount of experiences, including dangerous experiences, before they're 7, before they are 7 years old. Front load means to put a lot of something in the beginning. So what he's saying is that how do you create a genius is you give them a ton of experiences and challenges when they are quite young, including dangerous experiences. Now, next, he talks about a story about Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin. Let's listen to that.
And my favorite story is Richard Branson tells it in his autobiography. His mother, who was an airline stewardess in 1946, flying the Atlantic, so not exactly, the safest thing to do, she was desperate that he wouldn't become a dependent. And so when he was 4 years old, picture 48 months, She drove him miles from their London home in Shamley Green and asked him if he thought he could find his way home from there, and he said he thought he could. Get out and do so, then, she said. And now he said, where is he? He doesn't even have many words, So 8 or 9 hours later, when he finds his way home, he said nothing in his life ever seemed hard for him to do again. He drops out of high school, never goes to college, has his first $1 million by the time he's 19 by figuring out what people need and want and giving it to them cheaper or better or bringing anyone to offer it.
Okay, so that's the story of Richard Branson. Very interesting. So I'll help you understand that story. When he was 4 years old, 48 months, 4 years old, Richard Branson's mom put him in a car, drove him miles out of the city. They were living in London. Drove him miles outside of London and asked him, do you think you can find your way home? Do you think you could go home by yourself? And he said, yes, I think so. So she said, then do so. Do it. So he had to get out of the car alone. Then his mom left. His mom drove home in the car, and Richard Branson had to get home by himself at age 4. Miles and miles. Took him 8 or 9 hours to do it. 4 years old! And in his book, Richard Branson said, after that experience, nothing in his life seemed difficult. Like everything seemed easier because that was a very tough challenge for a 4-year-old, and he did it. And it gave him huge confidence in his life so that nothing ever scared him much again. And then John Taylor Gatto talks about as he got older, Richard Branson dropped out of high school. He left school. He said, high school, I don't need this. Did not go to college. Just started his own business. And he became a millionaire at age 19. How did he do it? He just figured out how to give people what they wanted, right? He figured out what people wanted or needed, some problem they had, and he solved it and sold them the solution or sold them what they wanted, and he became a millionaire, 19 years old. This is such an important point, and we're going to get to more. There's another great section of this interview. But I want to talk about this part first. We coddle our children nowadays. Coddle means we overprotect them. We protect them too much. 4 years old. Can you imagine someone doing that now with a 4-year-old? Oh, everybody would cry. Child abuse, terrible. Oh. Right? We make our children weak because we protect them too much. And so they grow up being afraid, being weak, dependent. They don't learn how to overcome tough challenges, especially in the real world, right? They're just focused on school, all these bullshit book ideas and book problems, but nothing out in the real world. Dealing with real people, face to face. No, it's all just tests and writing and books. And so they become little wimps. Weak people. And that is one of the purposes of schools, to create weak people, obedient people, dependent people. Let's listen to more of this interview.
What would our society be if we put millions of people through the same experience? I think it would be closer to what colonial America was and early federal America, when nobody wanted to work for somebody else. They wanted an independent livelihood.
Interesting. So he says, imagine, what would our society be like if this was normal, if we put most children through this kind of experience, if we, instead of protecting them all the time, if we challenge them, if we made them more independent, if we gave them tough challenges at an early age, what would our society be like? And he says, I think it would be like early colonial America and early independent America. The early Americas were a time when people wanted to be independent. They did not want to work for someone else. So most people, they wanted to have their own livelihood, right? Their own business, or of course, a lot of them were farmers. But this idea of working for other people, being an employee, was seen as very negative, that you were dependent, that you were weak, and that good people, strong people, wanted to be their own boss, that was highly valuable. And so you can see how it relates, how it connects this schooling, these early childhood experiences to what happens when we become adults. Continuing with the interview.
It would be closer to that than the corporate hell that we have now, with the corporations following perfectly rational logic have begun to need less and less people.
So he's saying if we had that kind of education, that kind of childhood experience, that kind of parenting, then we would not have the corporate hell that we have now, right? Where most people are what I call wage slaves for an income, for a check. And I used to be one too, so I'm not criticizing people like that. I understand we have to do it to make money sometimes. We have to do it to survive. But it's not very enjoyable, is it? I can tell you my own experience being independent, having my own business, being my own boss is so much better. It's so much more enjoyable, so much more fun, so much more interesting. I feel more confident, more powerful. I have a much better quality of life because of that. Much better than when I was an employee working for other people as a teacher or in other jobs also. And he's saying also, at the end, John Taylor Gatto said that what's happening now is that using logic, using reason, using rational thought and decisions, corporations are now realizing they can do the same work with fewer and fewer and fewer people. They don't need as many people, right? First, they sent the jobs off to other countries where they could pay people less money. And they still do that, of course. But what's happening now, more and more and more, they're using computers and machines and robots. And that is going to increase. It's going to increase very quickly. And so there will be fewer and fewer and fewer of these corporate jobs, these employee jobs. What are we to do? Well, we got to go back. John Taylor Gatto is saying, we need to go back. We need to go back to this idea from the early Americas that being your own boss, having your own business, your own kind of income, your own work is the most respectable thing. It's the best way to go. But to do that, we have to raise children and teach people to think more independently. Okay, now the final part of this interview with John Taylor Gatto. Now, in this next part, you'll first hear the interviewer, and I don't know who it is. It doesn't have his name. Not sure. But anyway, he'll make a comment, and then we will hear John Taylor Gatto finish his ideas.
That type of mentality where people are under control, and someone like Branson who gets to go on walkabout, which is a rite of passage, which was around in the founding of this country with high literacy rates. And so when we had a high entrepreneurship, self-reliance, literacy rates, people who had critical thinking and knew how to deal with problems on their own, because if not, you might die.
Or other people think badly of it if you say, I want a job for, what do you want to do?
Okay, that's the last little part. So the interviewer says, that's the difference between now and, back in like in the beginnings of America, that, in those earlier days of America, most people had experiences like Richard Branson. They had to be self-reliant, and they had to learn it very early. They had to learn to be independent. They had to learn to solve problems. They had to learn to take care of themselves, to face challenges at an early age. They had to do it to survive, or as John Taylor Gatto said, or they also had to do it because there was pressure from society, right? If you said you wanted to work for someone else, be an employee, other people thought badly of you, right? They thought that was a bad thing. They would think, oh, what's wrong with you? What do you want to do? So being an entrepreneur was valued. Being self-reliant, relying on yourself, taking care of yourself, making your own decisions was highly valued. And now it's not. And that's why someone like Richard Branson, he went on a walkabout. He went just walking, right? Had to walk home, find his way. No map, nothing. 4 years old. Compared to most kids who at 4 years old, parents are always watching them every second, trying to protect them from everything. Now, an important point is that I think this is not only about children. I think we can still do this as adults. So, I didn't do this as a young child. I had a pretty safe and calm childhood, which we do need. I do want to say we don't want chaos in childhood, and we don't want abuse. Of course not. No. We need to keep our children safe from harm, from abuse, certainly. But the point is that John Taylor Gatto is making, and I agree, the point is that we've gone too far. Now we're overprotecting them. We're making them weak and dependent, and that's not good either, right? Yes, of course, we want to keep them safe from harm and terrible abuse and stuff like that, but not overprotect them and make them little weaklings and dependent. But the truth is, it's not just children, it's adults too. As adults, too many of us, most of us are overprotected. We're too comfortable. Right? Every day is basically the same. Everything has to be perfectly easy and comfortable for us, and predictable and safe. When we travel, we research everything. We have our guidebook. We pre-plan everything. We reserve everything before, so that when we go to the country, everything's kind of predictable. I remember trying that the first few times I traveled when I went to India. But thank God I went to India. I'm so happy that I went to India, because India is such a different place and so chaotic and so crazy in many ways that even though I tried to plan everything, it didn't matter. My plans were destroyed. And I had to learn to improvise and adapt and overcome. I had to learn to deal with all kinds of strange things, strange for me, because so different than America. And I was in my 20s, so everything was shocking and different, but it was such a great experience. It's kind of like the Richard Branson experience that he had when he was 4. Well, for me, I had that kind of experience in my 20s, just moving around, traveling around India with almost no money and no idea about anything. It was a great experience. Not always easy. Very tough sometimes, but a great experience. My confidence, my general confidence as a human being, about making decisions, about being confident in myself, about taking risks, all of that improved so much after that trip, that first trip to India, and then additional trips. Even now, when I travel, I don't like planning anymore. I used to read guidebooks. I don't even do it anymore. I usually just buy a plane ticket and fly there and figure it out when I arrive. If I'm going somewhere totally new, I might make a reservation for my first night or my first couple nights, just because I know I'll be tired after the flight. But I don't like to plan it too much. I like to just discover and I like to just walk around places with no map, no idea what's happening, and just explore, not just visit the tourist places. I can even do this in my own homes, in my own hometowns, just wander around strange places. Travel is only one example. The general idea, though, the general principle here is that we're too soft. We're too soft with our children, and we're too soft with ourselves. How do you become a genius? Well, he says you need tons of experiences, tons of different experiences, including dangerous ones, including very difficult ones. It's our lack of experiences, our lack of challenge, our lack of difficulty, our lack of discomfort. All of these things are what make us kind of boring and not very talented, not geniuses, weak, dependent. And the difference now compared to, let's say, the early days of the Americas, or even earlier in other times in history, the difference now is in the past, see, they had no choice in many ways, right? Life was difficult. They didn't have computers and air conditioning and central heating, and everything wasn't easy. Life was challenging and tough, so they had no choice. So they kind of had to do it. They were forced into this kind of strength and independence and genius. But nowadays, normal life is very, very easy. Even for so-called poor people in places like the United States. Oh, poor people, I kind of laugh about it because I have visited countries that have some just horribly poor people in some really terrible situations. And you come to America and the so-called poor people get money from the government. They get free food. Most of them are overweight, kind of fat. They have free housing. I mean, nice places, actually. They're actually very, very comfortable. But that's the problem, is that we're too comfortable. We're too comfortable, too easy, and the schools are designed to make us even more comfortable and lazy and dependent so that the children are never challenged with anything that's really tough, but instead they just sit there in their little desks all day long, looking at books and doing worksheets, and they become soft and lazy and weak. And so do we when we go to our little jobs day after day in our nice little air-conditioned car or train and come home to our nice little heated or air-conditioned home. And everything's simple and easy. We got our refrigerators and our electric appliances and our cell phones, and everything's so comfortable. And this is why nowadays we have to do it. We have to use our willpower. We have to use our own brains, our own decision making. We have to go and create those challenges. So that's the difference now. In the past, they were forced to. The environment made them strong, made them geniuses, made them tough. But nowadays, the environment will make us weak. If we just do what's normal, we will become weak and lazy. So we have to take risks. We have to consciously decide, I'm going to take risks. I'm going to do uncomfortable things. I'm going to do difficult things. I'm going to push myself every day, every week to have new experiences, to try different things, especially difficult things, especially challenging things, and yes, even possibly dangerous things sometimes. That's how you become a genius. That's how you become successful. That's how you become rich. That's how you become happy. That's how you become influential. That's how you attract other people. That's how you do it. You can't do it by being lazy and weak. You can't. You got to go out and find all those tough challenges. You have to create them yourself. The world will not do it now. The modern world wants you to be soft and weak. The modern world gives you a very predictable, boring life. But it's comfortable and easy. It's comfortable and easy. You have to be uncomfortable. This is the main message from this interview of John Taylor Gatto. That's what I believe. It's the main message. So as parents, challenge your children, not just with schoolwork. I mean, I look around and I see parents and all they talk about is school. Oh, is my kid reading fast enough? Oh, does my kid have a high enough test scores? Are they ahead of their classmates or behind? It's all focused on this wimpy, stupid, mostly useless schoolwork. And meanwhile, their child can't cook food and can't make any food or dinner. Their child, can't use a knife, to cut vegetables, even though they're 5, 6 years old. They're not allowed to do anything. Their child can't, run around and be rough. Their child has no independence, is scared of risks, can't make decisions about anything. Is not able to talk to adults. I mean, these are important life skills. In fact, far more important than their test scores at school. And as adults, it's the same thing. We got to push ourselves. So we can do it at any age. It doesn't matter the age. Okay, I'm 49 years old, and I'm still trying to push myself. Because this happens to me. It happened to me this winter, where my life just got too comfortable, right? And as I kind of just got into doing the same things each day, and then I got lazier and lazier, my energy dropped and dropped, my motivation, my willpower dropped and dropped, started feeling weaker and weaker, mentally and physically. And then I kind of woke up, I realized, hey, okay, if this is easy, I can continue to do this, right? I can continue being weak and lazy. The modern world will let me do it, but I can't do it because this is the way to die early. This is the way to be a weak, bored person. So I have to do it myself. I have to make the decision to challenge myself. That's one reason I'm doing these shows now almost every day. I don't have to do it, but I want to do it for myself. I want to do it because it pushes me to think, to grow, to find different cool interviews, cool ideas, to learn more myself, and also to help you because I know it's useful and helpful for you. To have more and more, to give more to you, to contribute more to you. Physically, too, I'm pushing myself. Most 49-year-olds that are lazy and fat in America, it's horrible. So I'm pushing myself, doing push-ups, pull-ups, other body weight exercises, strength workouts. I don't have to do it, but I'm doing it. And I'm losing weight, I'm building some muscle, and I'm feeling great. My energy is high. You can hear it in my voice, I'm sure. This is true for all areas of life. Seek out difficulty. Seek out strange, different, challenging experiences. Tons of them. Lots and lots of them, right? He says you have to front load them. Intensity is important. It's not just about having one little different experience one time. It's about having lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of experiences, different experiences, new experiences, challenging experiences in a short time, in just a few years. That's what creates the genius. And you can become a genius at age 50 or 60 or 70 or 20 or 10, whatever. So get out there. All right. Join my Power English course at effortlessenglishclub.com. It's a high energy course, Power English. You will not be sitting on your butt being lazy, learning with me. No, you won't. Join my Power English course, effortlessenglishclub.com. Learn to speak English powerfully and confidently. Have a great day. See you next time.